Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be focusing on preparing oil blends for relaxation. Relaxation time helps you to stay focused. At first that seems like a counterintuitive statement, but so much of our lives is about rushing around, being busy, watching the clock as time ticks by, that not doing this for a little while and having a chance to actually slow down helps you to process and to analyse much more easily, allowing you to actually be more productive and more focused. Having a little bit of me time means setting everything else to one side just for a little while, and is much needed in our hectic lives. Life can get a little bit complicated, and small tasks at work or at home can become big, overwhelming obstacles. So taking time out to focus on something else allows your mind to gently slot everything back into a logical place, allowing you to actually have a fresh mind and find answers to move forward. The other key need that we have is the need for rest, both physically and mentally. You cannot be mentally sharp 100% of the time, and you do need a bit of space just simply to unwind. This focused time on relaxation can really help you. Whatever you do, whether it's having a treatment, reading a book, or simply being still for a while. The addition of aromatherapy oils adds that extra dimension to that sense of relaxation. You've heard me talk about oils before. The practice of using oils for relaxation and well-being is steeped in ancient history and has developed into what we know today as holistic therapies, and these act on the mind, the body and the spirit. So today I'm going to focus on oils that are known for their relaxation benefits. Now these oils are known as ester-rich compound oils, and some examples are clary sage that we've got here, lavender, very well known one, and bergamot as well, among others. So these oils cause the brain to release something called gamma amino bitriic acid, and this is the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. It acts as a chemical messenger, and it blocks or inhibits nerve signals, reducing overall nervous system ability, and promotes relaxation, controls anxiety, and helps to manage stress. Isn't it amazing what essential oils can do for us? As in all cases with essential oils, do your research, as these are powerful and volatile compounds. Also remember that essential oils must be diluted in some form of carrier medium. Today I'm going to focus on using almond oil as a carrier oil. It's very light. I find it very light to use and very versatile. And it's very gentle on the skin as well, and wonderfully suitable for simple, straightforward blends. For my first blend, I'll be using oils that are related to relaxation. So lavender, well known, I think, to all of us for its relaxation elements, rose for its calmness, and vetiver for its sedative properties. This blend can be used in many different ways. So firstly, it can be used in massage. So let's have a go. So to create our first blend, we need our almond oil. So to create, I'm going to have to start again, I've lost my train of thought now. Okay, so to create your main blend, take your almond oil, and if we're aiming for a body massage, we want about 20 millilitres. And to that, you want to add 10 drops in total. So we'll do 5 drops of lavender, and 3 of rose. You have to be patient with rose. So rose is quite a thick oil, so it is always slow to come out. So don't worry, it just takes a little bit of time. So 3 of rose and 2 of vetiver. Okay, and that totals your 10 drops to 20 millilitres. And then give that a nice stir. That's wonderful. And you do get this sense of relaxation from the mixture and the aroma of the oils, which just puts you in the right mind frame to start relaxing. So you can simply take some of this and use it to massage your body. And allow it to absorb into the skin. The smell is wonderful. Take your time. Enjoy the feel of the oil soaking into the skin while you enjoy the amazing aromas as well. So do some simple, basic massage moves, and that will help with your feeling of relaxation as well. I always like to massage the insides of my hands and my fingers. I get very dry hands, so that is going to help. Love these oils, it's wonderful. So you will have some oil left over depending on how much of a massage you want to do. You do whatever you're comfortable with. If you do have some left over, then simply put it into a sterilised bottle so that you can use it again, maybe using a slightly different method. For example, you can just literally take a tablespoon of the blend that's left over, and all you do is put that into a nice warm bath and allow yourself to literally drift away, to relax, soaking up those oils and the aroma of those oils in your nice warm bath after a hectic day, and you will really get that sense of winding down. Really, really helpful to calm a busy mind. You've got that warm water and then the aroma sense of a really good, well blended oil. I'm going to leave that in my room, which is another way. If you put that onto a cloth, or you can use a paper towel if you prefer, just fold it over a few times, and you can leave that in a room and you'll get that same feeling of relaxation from those oils in particular. Now, what you can also do is you can also use a diffuser as a simple but effective way to unwind. So you can just take a few drops of one of the oils that has been suggested earlier. Clary sage is always a good one in a diffuser, and I've got a few here. This is a simple one which I've put. This is actually a simple oil burner which then diffuses the oil, and literally you put a little bit of water in the bottom and probably a couple of drops is enough. I'm just going to get my lighter. And then use a lighter. And that clary sage will then permeate into the atmosphere and obviously put it somewhere safe, out of reach. And just leave it gently to burn. the other one that I do have here is an electric diffuser, and this one does actually change colour. So what I thought we'd do with this one is we'd add bergamot. So it's got some water in the bottom. So a couple of drops of bergamot. And this one has a light, and it changes the light to add a little bit of mood enhancement. It also has a mister. So if you like having a little bit of mist, which really allows the oil to permeate into the atmosphere, then it's possible to do that. There are so many of these available on the market. So I just thought I'd show you a couple. But you choose the one that actually suits you. So that brings me to my next oil blend. So this, as I said, is much more of a soothing blend. Still using the almond oil, so I've got 20 millilitres of almond oil there, and to get that sense of soothing, I've got frankincense, neroli and orange. So this blend really helps with instances where you're sort of overstressed and over anxious, and ironically the floralness of things like orange and neroli combined with the mood boosting oils such as frankincense create a wonderful soothing massage oil, or you can even use this in a diffuser as well. Just one drop of each would be enough. But it really helps to bring a sense of calmness to the blend. So we start with the frankincense, and I would suggest 5 drops of the frankincense. Just a wonderful balancing oil. And then neroli next, I think. That would be 3 drops. And then this uplifting citrus oil of orange. Orange always surprises me because it never smells really orangey enough for me. But I have got one here. Just going to blend that with my glass rod there. That's lovely. And you can really imagine that in a room where you're trying to just calm down. Maybe you've had a really stressful day, or you're feeling anxious about something. You put a little bit of this in a nice warm bath, or you can use it in a similar way that we did earlier with the previous massage blend, or a drop of each in one of these diffusers, and that will really create a sense of calmness, definitely. Now, another blend that induces calmness, if you want something that's really simple and straightforward, would be using the almond oil and literally taking 5 drops of rose that we had earlier and 5 drops of geranium. I'm just going to open these because they really do smell wonderful, and I'm trying to get that smell into my head to remind myself what these two smell like together. Now that blends really well together. Yeah, the geranium on its own can be quite overpowering, but the rose just brings it down slightly. And both of these oils are well known for bringing calm to unsettled emotions. So if you're feeling anxious, literally in a diffuser, a couple of drops of each of this would be really helpful. Or make a blend up and use a couple of the methods that we spoke about earlier. So either a tablespoon in the bath, remember to mix it with almond oil, or even literally just a hand and arm massage will help you to bring that sense of calmness. So that brings me to the end of the main demonstration on oils or oil blends that are aimed at relaxation. But if all you can do is sit in a calm place for 15 minutes, putting maybe a couple of drops of an essential oil into an oil burner, keeping it all nice and simple, then that is still going to help you in some way to effectively relax and de-stress. If you can do it for longer than 15 minutes, do. It doesn't need to be anything complicated. As long as your body and your mind can switch off for a while, the benefits will really show in your ability to cope and be much more resilient. I hope you have found my suggestions useful and helpful, and thank you for sharing this time with me. Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel today. I would like to focus on using aromatherapy oils in a slightly different way and sharing that with you. I love using these little roller ball bottles, or rolettes as they're often referred to. They're available fully filled in stores and online, but the finished products can be quite costly, and I simply make my own. I've saved quite a lot of money over the years, but what I also like about making my own is that I know what's gone into it, and I get to choose which oil blends I make and which oils I add to the bottle. I've had complete bottles given to me in the past, and I just haven't liked the smell, and the blend of oils that they have used is something I'm not comfortable with. So by making my own, I get to make the choices of what's contained in my rolettes. So the whole idea behind these is that you can use them on the pulse points of the body. And I have this lovely visual here, which is going to help me explain this to you. So there's a brief summary here which says the pulse points are the locations where our arteries are closest to the skin surface, and therefore where essential oils are most easily and quickly absorbed into the bloodstream. The pulse points most used in aromatherapy are the temporal artery pulse point, which is towards the top of the ear and slightly in. And that's a good one to use for relieving headaches and balancing the mind. You've got the carotid artery pulse point, which is here, which is in your neck area here. Great for calming nerves. And the radial one is a popular one to use as well. Great for aiding sleep, but also the opposite, putting oils on there that are uplifting. Now the radial pulse point is the one that you use to check your pulse here. So coming down from the thumb, using these two fingers, and you can feel your pulse there, and that's where that pulse point actually is. There are a number of other artery pulse points here around the body. So you've got the apical, the brachial, the femoral, the popliteal and the pedal artery. And there's nothing to say you can't use these relax on those, but the three that we're going to focus on today are the most popular ones. So, how do we make these? You do have to make an initial purchase of empty bottles, and these come in different sizes and different colours. But what's great about them is that they are refillable and reusable. So some people prefer to use the dark bottle versions, and you can get dark bottle versions. I've used slightly clearer ones today so that I can demonstrate them. But I've also got a few coloured ones here. So we've got a pink one here, which is really nice. We've got a green one. And I'm going to use a few more in my demonstrations today as well. The coloured ones I like to use when I'm making gifts, and often I do have 3 bottles that I put together with different variations of aromatherapy blends, put those into a gift bag and actually gift those to people. So that's another way of actually saving some money as well. So I'm going to put this to one side for now. So while I'm getting my various tools together, I just want to talk to you about the way that you mix the aromatherapy blend for these. So your starting point is obviously your carrier oils, and I tend to go for the same ones on these, which are wheat germ, sweet almond oil and apricot kernel oil. Now I tend to go for the slightly clearer, runnier oils for my carrier oils in these. They're much easier to move around with, and also the thicker oils such as castor oil or olive oil are quite sticky, and you want something that's going to roll smoothly onto the skin. Now the aroma blends that I'm going to use today are all about boosting energy and lifting the spirits and creating positivity. So let's look at the first one of these. So the first aroma blend that I'm going to do is aimed at boosting energy levels. So what you need to start with is I prefer to use a little measuring jug. Some people do just pour theirs straight into the roulette, but I find it gets everywhere, so I much prefer to do that. So we want to start with 10 millilitres of wheat germ. And you do want to be fairly spot on with this. There we go, that's exactly right. So the first oil I'm going to add into this is rosemary oil. So I'm going to find my rosemary oil and I'm going to add in 5 drops of this. Now, rosemary is a really refreshing and stimulating oil. It's extracted from the rosemary plant sprigs, and I've bought in a couple here from my garden. The smell is just wonderful, and it is definitely uplifting. And the sprigs that I've got are wonderful at the moment as well, because you've got these small purple and white flowers, and it just brings a wonderful uplifting aroma into the room. Rosemary is also well known for its health and well-being properties. Now to that I'm going to add 5 drops of lemon. So I'm going to go to my top note box, get my lemon out. Now lemon has a really fresh, sweet, tangy aroma, and it's got that ability to lift the spirits, and it's often recommended for stress-related fatigue. So mixing these two together is a really good uplifting blend. And you'll notice here I've got together the middle note rosemary and the top note lemon, and that blends quite well together because you're trying to present an uplifting blend. So with this middle and top note working well together, you can put that into your roulette now. So I thought we would use maybe a pink one for this. Now let me just demonstrate how you open these, because when you get them in the post in your order, you need to be able to take off this part, and you use these little tools that they send with your set to lift up the roller ball so that you can actually take it out. Just keep that to one side for now. And then you can either pour this straight into the bottle, or if you've got unsteady hands, obviously just use a little funnel like that. and you can see I've still gone over the side even with trying to be careful, so using a funnel might help. You do want to leave a tiny little bit of space because obviously you're going to push the stopper in. And sometimes you find these little roller balls do get stuck. So if you pop a little bit of the oil on, that will really help you. And you literally just add this to the temple artery. Oh, that is lovely and cooling. And you can literally carry that in a pocket or a bag. So that's the first one. And you generally get little labels sent to you as well, so you can actually write on what you've actually put there in terms of that blend, so that you don't get them mixed up. So we can then maybe do a clear one. So we'll use this. So we'll take ourselves a new bottle, and this second aromatherapy blend, I've tried to focus on motivation and positivity. And this is for the carotid pulse point. So this time I'm going to use apricot kernel as my carrier oil. And you take 10 millilitres of that. And to this we are going to add 5 drops of bergamot, which is one of my top notes here. And bergamot is a wonderfully uplifting oil. It has a really sweet, fruity, citrus, aromatic aroma, and it's sort of naturally uplifting and mood enhancing as well. Now please bear in mind with bergamot that if you are light sensitive, do purchase the bergamot, which is known as bergamot FCF oil, and that has one of the compounds removed from it called ferrocalmane, and you're better off with that if you're light sensitive, otherwise you can use the ordinary bergamot. So to this I'm going to add 5 drops of clove bud, so which is the middle note. Oh, that's nice. Always smells much nicer than I think it's going to smell. So it's sweet, it's spicy, it's got an element of fruit to it as well. It's really uplifting and energising, invigorating. Hits you in the headspace, so that's good. So 5 of these as well. Now, clove bud you do need to be a little bit careful with because it can cause sensitisation. So if you are sensitive to oils, then do watch out for that one. Okay, so once that is blended together, you can literally just pour that into your roulette. leaving a little bit of space at the top for this stopper to go in. Check that the roll is working. And this one we decided we were going to put on the carotid artery pulse point there. So that's our second one. And then for our third blend, I'm going to use sweet almond carrier oil. So we'll do 10 millilitres of that one. And to this I'm going to add 5 drops of geranium, and it's from my middle note box, and this is bourbon geranium. There are different varieties, and I always forget how powerful this one smells. So it's rose-like in its scent, but it's a really strong, powerful smell, and it's really designed to uplift your spirits. It immediately raises your spirits overall. Okay, so 5 of that, and then I've got the top note sweet orange. Now this is lovely. It's got a really warm citrus aroma, well known for its uplifting properties, and it's often described as sunshine in a bottle, and I would go along with that description. Very helpful if you're suffering from low mood or fatigue. So 5 drops of this. Occasionally the odd one will sneak in, there's nothing you can do about that. But it's still, those two blend beautifully together. I think we'll go for a green one, green coloured bottle. Then just check that the roller ball is working. And this one I think would be nice to put on your radial pulse point. You can either do that or just rub them together. That's really nice. And I often think this pulse point, if you've got an oil that you really relate well to, you can put that in one of these and have that in your pocket and put it on your radial pulse point there when you need it. So that's those 3 done. So always do remember when you're using aromatherapy oils to do your research, because some of these are very powerful and very volatile, and do use them in the amounts that I've suggested. So 10 drops to 10 millilitres is a good use of the oils here. So depending on who's using them, I might even reduce the number of drops even more. But generally that's a good suggestion for these. Some people will suggest less, some people more. I stick with the 10 drops for me personally because I find that works for me. but do, as I said, do your research. But I just find them very convenient, and as I said, you can style them to what you want to be included in there. The other suggestion I made earlier was to make them into gifts. Now, I have a few gift bags that I've got lying around from various projects, and all I would do is simply take one of these and put them in. Even gift bags like this, which look quite pretty, you could do, or maybe a see-through one like this. And I think that would make quite a nice gift for somebody, which is why I quite like the different coloured bottles. Obviously, you can label them up to make sure that whoever you're giving them to knows the content of the roulettes, but I just think they're wonderful. Great idea. So that brings me to the end of my demonstration. So a little bit of a fun way of using aromatherapy oils, but easily practical and very useful and cost saving. So I hope you've enjoyed sharing that with me and that you find these as useful as I do. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I would like to focus on creating aromatherapy blends to fight fatigue, all in a handy mini roller ball that you can keep in a pocket or a bag or your desk drawer or within reach for when you need it. That feeling of extreme tiredness you get with fatigue can be really quite challenging to cope with, and having something immediately to hand can be really useful. With fatigue, you can feel physically weak from exhaustion. You can have difficulty concentrating or even brain fog. Or you can just feel emotionally overwhelmed and exhausted from the fatigue. These are the early signs of fatigue, and at these times I reach for my essential oils as they can provide some support during those challenging times. Do remember to seek professional advice if your fatigue continues for any period of time, as it could be a symptom of something else. But I do find that these mini roller balls are really, really helpful with the challenges of fighting fatigue. So how do we use these roller balls? They tend to come in a pack. I've got a few here. They tend to come in different colours. We've got a pink one here. You can get the plain glass ones. You can get the amber coloured ones as well. And some people prefer to use the darker versions. They are said to maintain the length of the oil and the purity a bit longer when you keep them in dark bottles. You also get different sizes. So I like the 10 millilitre ones, which are this size, but you can get them smaller. This is a 5 millilitre one. And these ones I find are good when you've got the really expensive oils such as sandalwood, rose and melissa, and they come ready diluted because they are too expensive to buy, or if they are, you want to really use them extremely sparingly. But those that you tend to purchase generally come already diluted in a carrier oil, and they fit nicely in these so that you can keep those to hand. And those three oils in particular are really well known for being very beneficial as an aromatherapy oil. One of the things that arrives with your pack is this wonderful little tool which allows you to open the bottle, because the stoppers can be pushed in quite tightly. Sometimes the stoppers do arrive separately, but more often than not they arrive already pushed in. So you take your little tool and you just need to shift the lid so that it separates from the glass, and then you use the edge of the tool just to fully pop that out. And that stops you trying to fiddle around with dangerous knives and your fingernails and things like that. The tool is extremely helpful. Also, within the pack you get some stickers normally. It could be plain white ones, could be nice ones like this. And particularly useful if you want to record what it is that you've blended in the bottle. You can't remember, or you're using quite a few different oils. You can record this and put it on the bottle. And also what I sometimes do is I might group 3 different types together and actually give those as a gift. And all you need to do is, you might have some old gift bags lying around, or you can get some if you're going to maybe do Christmas gifts for everybody. Then you can get a pack of these really quite reasonably priced. And they make wonderful gifts. People really appreciate that you've gone to the effort of putting them together, but the labels are useful in that respect as well. And what is also useful about these is that, of course, they are reusable and refillable, so cost saving as well as practical. I also like them because I can choose what oils I mix in with that to create the blends that I like, because aromatherapy blends can be quite individual and quite personal. So this way you get to put into the blend exactly what works for you, what you like, and avoid those essential oils, and there are some that you simply don't like. So let's move to my first demonstration, and this one is going to be for use on the radial point. So that's the pulse point that you use to test your pulse on your wrist, so down from your thumb, your main 2 fingers there, and that's where your pulse is. And if you get it in the right place, you can actually feel your pulse, and that's where you're aiming to dab this particular aromatherapy blend. Now, just a word about the ratios. Now, I tend to like to use 10 millilitres, so I'll talk you through this as I demonstrate. So the first carrier oil we're going to use is wheat germ. So you want 10 millilitres. Now, if you've got a very steady hand, you can mix this straight into the roller balls, but I find it much easier to blend everything in a little jug and pour that in. And most jugs you will find have got a little spout which will allow you to easily pour that in. So into the 10 millilitres of wheat germ oil, I'm going to put the first of my essential oils, which is the middle note juniper berry. And I'm going to do 5 drops of this. That's lovely. And I tend to do 5 drops of a middle note and then mix that with 5 drops of something else. Now, I tend to just use 2 oils for these mini bottles. Other people use 3, but I always use the middle note as 5 notes. Juniper berry is lovely. It's got almost like a bittersweet aroma. And the oil is steam distilled from the juniper berry tree. And it's a great oil for anyone that's feeling sluggish or tired. It naturally refreshes and has that invigorating feeling on the mind and the body. Now, just a cautionary note about juniper berry. It's not suitable for those in pregnancy, as with many aromatherapy oils. If you are pregnant and you want some safe oils, do look those up, because there are some that you can use. But it's also not suitable for those people who are taking high blood pressure medication, because the juniper berry, there are compounds within it that interact with the medication. So be aware of that. Now, one of the oils that I find works really well with this is peppermint. This is a US peppermint variety. And it's quite sweet. It's the sweetest of the mint variety, very cooling, and it has still got that minty aroma, but it's much sweeter than your normal peppermint. It's helpful for refreshing a tired mind, and maybe when you're feeling a bit low, peppermint has that bit of a lift to it. That's nice. So let's do a white one. Not white, a clear bottle, I think we'll do for this one. So this is your juniper berry and peppermint mixture. Make sure you've got that click. If you don't get the click, the lid won't close properly, and then you end up with it all in your bag, and you don't want that, or all over your desk drawer or your table. But that works really well. So, actually that's a bit stuck. Sometimes the roller balls do get a bit stuck, so if you put a little bit of oil over them, that frees them up nicely. And we were going to use this on the radial pulse point. That's a really nice refreshing blend there. Okay, let's put that to one side and get a second jug out. And this actually has a smaller spout, which is really helpful for getting into these amber bottles. I find them much narrower, some of them, and are much thinner glass-wise as well. So the quantities might vary. For example, the glass on this one is slightly thicker, so you need to just be careful with the amounts. This one, because the glass is thinner, you'll actually get more liquid in there. But I would stick with the 10 millilitres. It's easy to calculate things in your head that way. So this second demonstration, we're going to use, I think, sweet almond oil. Turn that round so I can see the measure clearly. And to this, I'm going to add 5 drops of black pepper. Now this oil has a really warm, spicy aroma, and it's a great oil for helping to ground the mind. It's got a real feeling of comforting and warmth. So 5 drops of that. Well, that comes up very, very quickly. Okay, have to watch out for that one. The odd extra drop is not going to be a major problem, but if you do too many, then you need to start again because the blend won't work. But the odd 1 or 2 is not going to be too much of a problem. Now to this, what I am going to add is pine, and that's a top note, so top note pine, and it's got a real fresh woody aroma. It really helps. I mentioned a foggy mind earlier, and I find this one really helps to revive and clear that fogginess. That's nice. That blends well together. Now, I think I mentioned earlier, I find with these amber ones, they are really quite narrow. So they do come with these useful funnels, and particularly if you've got unsteady hands, I do find that useful. And then you can just pour that in. Slightly overfilled that one. Now, the reason I'm taking a little bit out is you've still got to get the stopper in. We will use that for something else. Okay. And I would suggest we use this one on the temporal pulse point here. It's quite cooling actually. For my final choice of blend, I'm going to use 10 millilitres of apricot kernel, and this is for the carotid pulse point. So it's a slightly thicker oil, but still runny enough to run through on the roller ball. When you pick your carrot oils, you are better going for the runnier oils. Don't choose something like castor oil or a thick olive oil because that won't roll as smoothly. Okay, so to this one I'm going to add 5 drops of rosemary. Rosemary is a very aromatic herb, hence it's used in cooking quite a lot as well. And I've got a rosemary bush in my garden, which in the summer, when I'm sat out there, just fills that space with this aromatic smell. It's just wonderful. And it's well known for its health and well-being properties. Now to this, what works well with the rosemary is actually a base note. So I'm going to opt in the other direction and I'm going to use ginger for this. Now this is quite a stimulating oil, but at the same time quite warming as well. And it helps to really fight those feelings of fatigue and lethargy that you get. Let's mix that in. Okay. And it sort of takes the headiness down of the rosemary. It needs to be well mixed actually. Just get my glass. That's better. This is a new bottle, so I'm just going to make sure the roller ball is working on that. And then this would be for the carotid artery here. That is a very nice mixture, that one. And then, of course, you can label these up to make sure you know what's in them and just use them. I really hope that you will get some benefit from this as a really practical method of helping just relieve the edge of that fatigue that you get. And, you know, fatigue can be caused by all sorts of things, but it can simply be that you're overtired due to things that are happening. So that brings me to the end of my demonstrations, and I really hope that has given you some practical solutions to get some immediate relief with these roller balls from some really useful combinations of aromatherapy oils that are well known to help with fatigue and the symptoms of fatigue. So I hope you will benefit in me sharing this practical source of using essential oils. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I love exploring different ways of using aromatherapy oils. And one of the ways I like to use them is by making my own rolettes. Using these handy mini rollerball bottles that I can keep in my pocket or my bag is so helpful. I can choose specific essential oil blends to help with certain issues that I need, and I find them very practical as an instant remedy. I use these when I need a little bit more energy, or I use them when I need to relax. I also use them to restore balance, which is what I'm going to focus on today. Now, we all occasionally have those feelings where we feel off balance, we feel out of kilter with what's going on, or you can feel mentally or physically drained. And I find that essential oil blends can really help to restore that mind-body balance that is needed and really help you to feel grounded again. Essential oils are my go-to with various issues that come on, and I find them so helpful. So having them in something practical like this is really, really useful. So today, what I'd like to do is share with you how I use my rolettes to help restore harmony and brighten your mood and leave you feeling much more composed and able to cope with what life throws at us regularly, and really do this through the practical use of something that you can simply reach for. So you can buy these bottles. I've got a few here. And you can get them from stores or online quite cheaply, and they are reusable. So there is a definite cost saving with these, but the main reason I like them is that you get to choose what goes in here. So once you've decided on your carrier oil, so that's just a reminder that any essential oils need to be diluted in something. So I've got some mainstay carrier oils that I like to use in these bottles, and they're the slightly clearer, runnier oils. The slightly thicker carrier oils are too sticky, really, because you want something that you're going to be able to roll on your skin quite easily. So stay clear of things like castor oil, for example, and stick with some of the ones that I'm going to use today, which include wheat germ, almond oil and apricot kernel. So those are slightly runnier and clearer than the castor oil that I mentioned previously. But what it gives you the option then, once you've decided on your carrier oil, is you then get to choose which essential oils you want to add. So if you prefer to just use lavender in there, then you can just use lavender. If you want to use a mixture of 3 oils, then use a mixture of 3 oils. And I've had many of these gifted to me, or ones that I've even bought myself. And I would say 9 times out of 10, I just haven't liked what's been blended in the aromatherapy blend. I haven't liked the mixture that's in there. So this is why I turned to making my own. I don't think I've made one that hasn't given me some joy and been useful. So I do make mine regularly. So what I'd like to do today is to go through some of those with you, but I just want to start with a basic guide on the quantities and ratios. So what I tend to use as a rule of thumb, and these bottles are very helpful because they're 10 millilitre bottles. So you start with your 10 millilitres of carrier oil. And what I tend to do is use a mixing jug. I just find it easier to pour in afterwards. So you start with your carrier oil of 10 millilitres, and then using your little jug, I would then put in 5 drops of a middle note oil, and I'll give you some examples of those today. And then I tend to do 5 drops of a second aromatherapy oil. Now, if I'm looking for something that is energising and uplifting, I would tend to choose 5 drops of a top note. So your citrus notes, your ones that elevate your mood and energise. Now, if I'm looking for something that's trying to balance or ground me or relax me, then I would tend to go either for an additional middle note or a bass note, and I'll be looking at some of those with you today. Even if, for example, you want to use 3 different notes, I would recommend that you still stick with the middle note as 5 drops and then split the other 5 between the other 2 notes depending on what you're aiming for. So the idea behind these useful bottles is to dab them on the body's pulse points. So I'm just going to run through the main 3 that we use in aromatherapy. There are others, but they tend not to be in places that you can just dab things on quickly. So the main ones are the temporal pulse point, which is just in front of the ear towards the top, and that's your temporal artery comes to the surface, and that's where you get a pulse point there. The other one is your carotid artery here, where you get a pulse point there, and the other one is your radial artery, which is here. This is where your radial pulse point is, so following down from the thumb with your 2 fingers, and it's where you would take your pulse point, and that's where your radial pulse point sits. So let's move into showing you how to use these bottles. So they tend to arrive in a pack, and you also get given a tool because obviously you've got to open the bottles, and sometimes they can be pushed in quite hard. So they give you this tool where you can lift off the top slightly, and then you use the edge of the tool to get underneath the lid, and then you can pop it out of the bottle. Okay, let's leave that to one side for now. And obviously, if you're going to be doing a number, you can do that, open them all at the start, because once you start getting oil on your fingers, it can be quite hard to use these tools. So I would recommend, if you're going to do more than one bottle, just make sure that you've taken the lids off already. What also comes in the pack is some little labels which you can add on when you've completed your rolettes with your aromatherapy blend, and you can just label that with what you've got in there. And I have made these up and made them into gifts before now, but I do like to use them myself. And don't forget, these are reusable, so, and refillable. So let's go ahead and do our first aromatherapy blend. So we're going to start with some wheat germ, and you do need to be fairly accurate with this. So 10 millilitres, because you don't want to waste any of your precious oils. So there we go. And to this one, my first choice is the base note frankincense, which I have here in my box of base oils. And as I said, you want to put in 5 drops of frankincense. Frankincense, I'm just reminding myself, it's a really spicy, woody, slightly lemony aroma. It's very soothing and very uplifting. It's considered one of the most spiritual of essential oils and is often used when you need to meditate. And to this, I would add 5 drops of marjoram. So this is a middle note, and it's got a quite sweet herby aroma. It's a great oil to help relax and really aims at comforting the mind. So it's a great help for those of us who struggle with overthinking and over worry. So 5 of that. Yep, they go well together. So I think I'm going to use one of my yellow bottles for this one. And you do need to leave just a little bit of space so that you can push the stopper in. And sometimes when these stoppers have not been used, the actual roller ball gets stuck. So you need to check. Sometimes just rubbing a little bit of oil on will release it. And then that's your first one. And I would use that on the temporal pulse point here. Leave you with that feeling of balance. Okay, So my next choice is a really, what I call a refreshing blend, and that's to use on this radial pulse point here. And I'm going to use almond oil for this, so sweet almond oil. And to the almond oil, I'm going to add the middle note lavender, which I know many of you will be familiar with. It's really well known for its soothing and relaxing aroma. It really helps to calm and stabilise your mind. Hence it's used a lot in relaxation and massage. Helps with sleep as well, and really helps to soothe irritability. So you can put lavender on its own in a diffuser and you can feel the atmosphere start to relax immediately. So let's put 5 drops of that in. And to that I'm going to add cedarwood, which is a base note. Now this oil is really quite smooth. It's got a slightly woody, smoky aroma. It's wonderfully soothing and a really good balancing oil for the mind and the body. Again, one that you can use in a diffuser if you need to. Oh, it blends nicely together. So I'll use one of the clear bottles for this. Now, if you've got shaky hands, because this is quite challenging sometimes, you can get yourself these tiny funnels where you can pour that in. I do find that helpful sometimes, but I have got a little spout on this which really helps. Just pop that in. Let's check that the roller ball is working. It's not quite in properly. So that's our second choice there. And then for our third choice of oil, I'm going to use the apricot kernel carrier oil. And this one I'm aiming for a much more soothing blend, really aimed at chasing away thoughts that are worrying you. And this one is for the carotid pulse point in your neck. So to the apricot kernel carrier oil, I'm going to add the base note sandalwood, It's got a lovely, rich, woody aroma. It's a very sensual oil which has a balancing and grounding effect on the emotions. Again, another one that's used a lot in meditation. It's a slightly thicker oil, so that's why it takes a little bit of time to come out, but be patient and it will drop. And to that, I'm going to add 5 drops of Melissa. And this Melissa is a 3% blend in jojoba carrot oil, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. I love this oil. It's got a really delicate herbaceous aroma, and it's really prized for its uplifting and refreshing properties. It's great for helping to comfort the mind, really by calming those feelings of tension and nervousness. Really helps to calm you down. There we go. Now, just a word about Melissa, because it's a very expensive oil and it's often sold in diluted forms like this, which is a 3% blend. Now, the reason for this is because the pure oil, it takes 7 tons of leaves and flowers to make only 1 kilogram of oil. So because this is already diluted, you can actually use this directly on the skin because it's already been diluted into the jojoba carrier oil. So you can just carry a bottle of that around with you and dab it as well. But I do like to mix it with other oils. That's lovely. So let's just put this into the final bottle. So there you have it, your trio of helpful, practical tools to help you rebalance your thoughts, your mind, your body, so that you can get back on track and cope with the rest of the day. So I hope you've enjoyed me sharing some of those examples of what I use to help, and that this gives you some practical ways of reaching for an immediate remedy when you feel that you need it. And the aromatherapy oils that I've used can be so helpful in helping you with feeling yourself again. So I hope you have enjoyed sharing this time with me, and thank you for watching.